A very warm welcome to the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. And today's show is The Hatter's Flying Wizard, which captures the footballing life of a very talented and tricky traditional left winger who showcases footballing's wizardry for Swindon Town, Luton Town Football Club, and Tampa Bay Rowdies in the United States of America. Yes, folks, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome on the show David Moss. Welcome to the show, David.
Happy to be here, Russell.
That's fantastic. You having you on? I mean, your footballing agility was superb going back. It really was. So I'm sure this is going to be a great story. You were born in Witney and signed for Swindon Town as a 17-year-old winger, I think from Witney Town in July 1969. You made your senior debut in January 1972 when you came on as substitute against Hull City, with further appearances as substitute against Middlesbrough and Charlton Athletic. But your first start in the first team came 3 months later as Swindon Town beat Watford 2-0. How did it feel to finally make it as a professional football player at Swindon Town? And what memories do you have about your first start against Watford?
Obviously, all of my youth and young days, it was planning towards being a footballer. I know it's every schoolboy's dream, but
yes,
I was fortunate enough, like you say, I was playing in men's football at 15 for Witney Town, so I had quite a good upbringing, and it was a good learning curve for me. And then, although I was born in Witney, which is in Oxfordshire, my dad used to take me to watch Swindon Town, so that's how I became a Swindon fan. And when they wanted to sign me, it was I'd made it basically, but I know I hadn't. But if you know what I mean, I'd got a professional offer, and it was the stepping stone that I was looking for.
Absolutely. And of course, to play for your hometown or home team, a team you support is always everyone's dream, isn't it? To play for the team you support as a youngster.
Absolutely. Most of the players that played in the famous 1969 League Cup final when they beat Arsenal were still at Swindon, and they were my heroes.
Oh, wow.
And then, 1 week I'm watching them and worshipping them, and the next week I'm in the changing rooms getting ready for pre-season training. So it was a strange thing, and I must admit I was in awe of all of those players, and I was quite shy and reserved, believe it or not, in those days.
Wow. Yeah, well, I can imagine that, because if you're suddenly, in the changing rooms, sitting amongst all those heroes of yours, and you're actually playing in the same side as them now, I mean, that must be quite a different feeling altogether. It must be.
Well, it was incredible. I mean, the players were brilliant towards the younger players. I got nowhere, like you say, I got nowhere near the first team until 1971-72 season.
Yes.
I played in the reserves, and of course those players who weren't in the first team would in those days play in the reserves. So yeah, I ended up playing with some of my heroes in the reserves, and then a few sort of moved on in their careers, and then made my full debut. Still, a lot of them were from that League Cup final in 1969 were still in the first team. So and Watford obviously became a big rival later when I went to Luton. So it was nice to make my debut against them. And I actually created a goal for Peter Noble, who was another hero of mine.
I remember him, yes.
So all in all, it was a lovely time, I must admit.
That's fantastic. And I don't know, I should have checked this, but who was the Swindon Town manager at the time? And what was he like in training? And of course, pretty-much post-match speeches, David, plus player management, individual player management. Who was the manager?
A guy called Danny Williams. He was a Yorkshireman. He played, I think, something like 700 matches for Rotherham. And he was an ex-miner, and he came up the hard way. And he was a brilliant guy. He was hilarious, to be honest.
Good.
I couldn't understand him. All he said was thee and thou and thou and me and thee and thou. And I thought I had to say to the players, what's he actually saying? But and it almost 2 weeks after I joined and started pre-season, he actually left and went to Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, really?
Which he was delighted to do, because obviously he won the League Cup with Arsenal, so he was sought after by the bigger clubs. He went to Sheffield Wednesday, and a guy came in called Fred Ford, who was an ex-coach at Swindon, also a coach at Bristol Rovers. So he came in. He didn't take a liking to me. Um, the only time he spoke to me was to heavily criticise me. Let's put it that way. I'll put it mildly.
Oh, wow. That's not good management, is it? That's sort of, that's why I mentioned about player management in my question, because some managers can be quite destructive in the way they act, can't they, really? And if you've got that against you, it's not a good thing.
It didn't do any good for my confidence, and other players absolutely shriveled in the dressing room if they knew that when we were playing a reserve game, if somebody said, "Oh, the manager's here," one or two of them didn't want to go out on the pitch. Seriously, it was
That bad.
Yeah, it made you shrink actually at the time, I have to admit, because as soon as you made a mistake, one mistake, you were caned for it, basically.
Good heavens, that's not good, is it? How long was he there at Swindon?
Not long, because one of my other heroes, who they signed as a player coach, called Dave Mackay.
Oh, Dave Mackay. Wow, yes.
Dave Mackay was a fantastic player at Tottenham and Scotland international.
He was indeed.
And somehow he'd been at Derby and they'd won the league championship, first division. And somehow that Swindon managed to sign Dave as a player coach. And within a few months of that, he became the manager when Fred Ford was released. And it worked the other way for me then, because Dave took a liking to me, what I did in training, and started involving me in the first team training and put me on the bench for the first team. And it kicked on from there, really. So I owe Dave Mackay a great deal.
Yes, no, he was a superb player, wasn't he? I remember him playing for Tottenham. Absolute solid player, individual, brilliant player.
He was a fantastic man as well.
Yeah. Well, that's coming across in what you're saying, which is nice to hear. It's brilliant, really. I have to say, Swindon Town, your heroes and the club you played for, they've got drawn at home to my club, Aldershot Town, in the next round of the FA Cup. I just thought I'd mention that because obviously I'll be supporting Aldershot in that particular game. So that's going to be an interesting game.
Okay.
So it's another Swindon Town versus Aldershot football encounter, going back all those years ago. Obviously, with quite regular fixtures, weren't they, in those days?
Yeah, played against Aldershot a few times in the old third division. Shame how they sort of went down the pyramid, wasn't it? Very sad, but always a likeable club, I think.
Yeah, very, very likeable club, friendly club, very family orientated. Always want to play good football as well. But things went wrong, didn't they? I mean, their first season actually in Division 3 after promotion, they finished 8th. I mean, they were bottom of the league at Christmas, and they went on a winning streak, and they could have got up to the second division. Incredible, really. But
those were the days when there were some strange results, weren't there? And you could go on a run of games where you couldn't really put your finger on it why you managed to do that.
No, exactly. It was an interesting time. I remember Aldershot beating Blackburn Rovers 4-0 at home and 2-1 away within a matter of 2 weeks of each other. That's that first season in Division 3. Incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. But yeah, you soon became one of Swindon Town's star players, of course, scoring 14 goals in the 1974-75 season and top scoring in 1977 and 78 with 16. You stayed at Luton Town until 1978. With some of your greatest achievements coming in the FA Cup, where you scored 13 goals in 6 seasons, including 7 goals in 5 games during the 1976-77 competition. In your last season at Swindon Town, you ended as the club's top goal scorer, prompting David Pleat actually to nip in ahead of an interested Stoke City to sign you for a large, at the time, 6-figure figure. I think around £110,000. There's a lot of money in those days to join David Pleat's revolution at Kenilworth Road. That's some move, isn't it, David?
Yeah. I was, the last couple of years at Swindon, I was a little bit disheartened. It was time for me to move on. Had we had agents in those days to look after you, I think I would have gone a couple of years before I did.
Yes.
Because you weren't, if the club didn't want to get rid of you, you weren't told of any interest from other clubs, and they didn't consider any bids. So I kept hearing things from the local press people about so-and-so are watching you, and Stoke City and Luton and QPR and Everton, allegedly. And you kept hearing these things, but I used to ask the managers, anything going on? And no, nothing concrete. So that was the end of it. So by the time I went to Luton in '78, I was ready to go.
Yes.
I'd been told every time I went in to see the manager, I'd been told that I was their most valuable player, and just to get on with it. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Mm.
I said, well, I don't think you're paying me as your most valuable player as much as you're paying some of the other players.
Yes.
So the last year or so wasn't the happiest. It was okay on the field, if you know what I'm saying. I did okay.
No, that's fantastic. And I mean, you know, as a player, don't you, when it's time to move? I think you get that instinct inside you, don't you, that says, "Hold on a minute, I've had my best years here. It's time to move." And it's interesting that your manager at the time said, "Oh no one's really coming through, nothing firm yet," because obviously he didn't want you to leave, and was hiding away the possible interest from other clubs. But as you say, with an agent, you'd have known about it.
Oh yes, it would have been done and dusted.
Absolutely,
definitely. But as it worked out, in the end, I was delighted. Met David and I signed for Luton, so it was a good time for me.
Good move. And of course, you instantly became a favourite with Hatters fans, coming into your element, scoring twice on your debut against Oldham Athletic. I mean, tell us more, David. As this was a huge start to your new thriving career, and despite the club's 18th place finish at that time, you still scored 13 goals and you became Luton Town's regular penalty taker. That's a big step up, isn't it?
It was a step up. I'd not been a regular penalty taker at Swindon, to be honest. I'd taken, I don't know, maybe half a dozen over the years.
Yes.
But I wasn't the regular. And then actually when I joined Luton, Lil Facillo was the regular penalty taker. So in the Oldham game that we won, I scored 2. We did have a penalty and Lil took it.
Yes.
Had I been taking them, it was a possible hat trick on my debut. Wow. So I've held it against him ever since.
Yeah, I should imagine you do really. Too. Or just remind him every time you speak to him anyway, just a little gentle nudge. I think you should. I think you're wise to do that. You're right to do it too, aren't you, really? Why not? I mean, David...
It was a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, David Pleat had been promoted to the Kenilworth Road hot seat, I think in January 1978, after working as a reserve team manager. Astute purchasers such as yourself, David, along with Mel Donaghy, Raddy Antic, and the player widely regarded as a final piece in the jigsaw in 1981, good friend of yours, I know, is Brian Horton, which steadily turned Luton Town's fortunes around, and the Hatters finished 6th and then 5th in subsequent seasons before finally winning promotion to the top tier of English football in the 1981-82 season. Timothy Collins summed it up best in the Luton Town story when he said, and I quote this, David, David Moss, a goal-scoring winger, went on to become a stalwart in the team, possibly the most important single component part of the style which carried Luton Town into the First Division. I mean, that's some story and some accolade by Timothy Collins, David, isn't it?
That's yes, that's very, very nice. But to be fair, I was one of several excellent players in that squad, in that team, and rightly so. You've mentioned Brian Horton. Brian came in as the final cog because we'd gone very, very close in the 2 previous seasons.
Correct.
Within a couple of points and just didn't quite get over the line. I'll tell you, if I've got time, I'll tell you a funny story about Brian, because me and him didn't really hit it off when he played for Brighton and I played for Swindon.
Yes.
There was quite a big rivalry there. And every time we played Brighton, Brian would, he wasn't the quietest and most polite opponent. Just let's put it that way.
Okay.
So he used to give me some real stick. I used to have a little bite back every now and then, and we didn't. I used to say to people, "We don't get on." And then I was playing in America, and David Pleat rang me just before I was coming back, and he said, "Well, we got some news, David. We signed a new captain." I went, "Oh, who?" He said, guy from Brighton, Brian Horton. I said, "Oh dear." I said, "Me and Brian don't really get on." And then he went, "You'll be fine." We had a little laugh about it and he said, "It'll be fine." And then when I went back to join up with training, Brian was there and we shook hands and we had a little chat and we've been friends ever since. We're friends to this day.
Yeah, it's a marvellous story, isn't it?
Every other week or so we have a chat. So it works out really well.
Yeah, to have that bit of rivalry, on the pitch when you're playing against a rival side and there's a certain player there. I mean, it happens all the time, doesn't it? But actually, off the pitch, I found before these players can be good friends or become good friends. But joining the Hatters and joining you with the Hatters with that behind you, that's a fantastic story, isn't it? Really is nice.
Yeah,
and
it
good
works
you're
out
friends with
well
him still.
because we've been good mates, and obviously,
Yes,
I've worked with Brian when he's been managing. I've been his coach and assistant manager at Man City and Huddersfield.
yes.
So yeah,
we'll come on to that a bit later on because I've got that here to talk to you about as well in a bit more fullness.
Yeah.
But yeah, take as much time as you like to tell your stories, David. It's a great life you've got in football. It really is, or you had. You played a huge part in that championship winning season, scoring 19 goals in all competitions, and finished the season joint top goal scorer with Brian Steen. What a great player Brian Steen was. In fact, you were seventh. You are seventh, in fact, on the list of all-time leading goal scorers for the Hatters, the only non-forward to make the list. And you are above legendary strikers like Joe Payne, who scored 88, Mick Harford, 92. You scored 94 in 7 seasons at the club, helped by your 24 goals in the 1979-1980 season, which saw you finish top scorers again as well. You're definitely a Luton Town legend, aren't you, David?
Absolute I'm not sure about legend, to be honest, but one of my proudest things now we've all finished is that I finished above Mick Harford, who was one of my heroes.
Yes,
and also he's a real legend for Luton Town. So
Mick Harford,
to be above him, I keep reminding him every now and then when I see him that it's never going to change because we're never going to play again.
No,
so that won't change, Mick. I'm still above you.
Yeah, I've got 94.
We laugh at it.
You've got 92. But that's good, isn't it? That's really good stuff to have. But you are a legend. I was speaking to a friend of mine in at one of my local pubs last night. I was telling him about this podcast, and he supports Luton Town. He said, "Oh, you got David Mossel?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, he's a real legend." And when I put it out onto Facebook and promoted the show, there's a number of people. A young lady was on there, and she said, "Oh, he's my favourite player. He's an absolute legend." So the supporters love you at Kenilworth Road. They really do.
Well, it's nice memories, I must admit, and it's a great club, and I'm really delighted what they've done now, getting back up into the top division, and
definitely
it's a wonderful achievement. And it's a reward for all the hard work put in by a lot of people behind the scenes and obviously on the field.
Yeah, and I hope actually as well that Luton Town this year survive. I hope they don't come back down. So I'm looking for them to, keep out the relegation spots at some time. So New Year's always a telling time, isn't it? Get past Christmas, we'll see.
Well, it's a tough. You see every year now, it's getting harder for the promoted teams to stay in the Premier League, and if they achieve that, it'll be wonderful. But you can rest assured that if they don't do it, then it won't be through lack of any effort.
Exactly.
Real great work ethic within the whole club.
Absolutely, and I hope that happens. I mean, you look at Burnley this year; they won the championship last year at Cantor, and they're really struggling, aren't they? They're below Luton, aren't they? Now in the Premier League, they're in the
it shows how tough it is to move up. You can spend an absolute fortune, but it doesn't guarantee you anything.
No, it doesn't.
So I think Luton have done it. They've not spent ridiculous amounts of money, but they're giving it a go with a few new additions to what was a great squad.
Yes. And when you look at Luton Town over the years, I always remember them playing Aldershot, the third division south when it was going back in the years. I've got a few Aldershot Luton Town programs actually somewhere. And you look at that and you think, well, they've got up to the top flight, going back to the English first division then, of course, all the way down to the National League, become a non-league club for a while. And I think their last game actually in the Football League was at Aldershot, when Aldershot beat them 2-0 and they went down to the National League. But of course now they've gone all the way back up through the leagues and back into the Premiership. It's a great story, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. I think it's 9 years. Is it 9 years or 10 years they've
9 or 10, yeah. Yeah.
From non-league to the Premier League, it probably never be repeated. I wouldn't think. It's a fantastic story.
Well, Wimbledon did it, didn't they? And so on. Wigan Athletic. So possibly it could happen again. But I think now it's more
possibly
difficult.
not in. I don't think they did it in a quicker time than Luton. I'm not sure.
No.
I don't know, but certainly not in the Premier League days.
Absolutely right. And any club coming up to join the Premier League, as Luton have done, are going to struggle. Like, we can see it now with Luton. It's not easy for them, is it? But I'm willing and I'm hoping, David, that they make it through. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah.
The season will tell us at the end. The season never lies. The table never lies. Let's see what happens. You also played for Tampa Bay Rowdies in the NASL before the 1981-82 championship winning season on loan, becoming a cult hero in your short time there as well. So everywhere you go, David, you become a hero. You've played a total of 22 games, scoring 9 times during your short loan period, and setting up another 11 assists as the Rowdies made it to the quarterfinals before bowling out to arch rivals New York Cosmos. But how was this experience, David? Usually this is what players do at the end of their careers. For you, it's like mid or beginning.
It was fantastic. It was an opportunity that came to me at the end of that season, and something I'd been looking into, to be honest.
Yes.
And David kindly agreed. They had to sell me and buy me back, basically. More of a gentleman's agreement, but I think I was sold for £1 and bought back for £1. And I did say to David, I think you've been stung there. They've overvalued me.
Oh,
but
very good.
I'll tell you. Oh, I'll correct you as well. I got 11 goals because we played in the playoff game. I scored 2 goals, I think, against Vancouver.
Yes,
which would have made my record 11 goals in 23 games, I think. Before we got knocked out of the playoffs. But yeah, it was a good time. I took the family over. Kids were very young, I think 3 and 7 or something.
Good experience for them too.
Took them out of school and had an apartment and a lovely big swimming pool for the kids and everything. So
great experience.
Wonderful time. Enjoyed the football side of it. Interesting. Because there was a lot of different nationalities playing over there, a lot of ex-World Cup players, etc.
Of course.
All the different climates you're playing in and different conditions. AstroTurf, old baseball stadiums. It was fun. It was good, and made some good friends over there.
Oh, that's what it's about too, isn't it? If you're making friends en route too, that's really good, isn't it? That's really
good teammates as well. We had the likes of Frank Worthington and John Gorman and Kevin Keelan,
names.
who was a legend goalkeeper from Norwich City. So we had some good players there. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Kevin Keelan quite well. I met him at Norwich City Football Club on a number of occasions. We had some great conversations. He was a great goalkeeper, wasn't he? The cat. There was 2 cats.
Yeah.
Peter Bonetti.
That's how he was introduced onto the pitch when we played.
Yes.
Kevin the Cat Keelan.
I mean, he was just an incredible goalkeeper. And you had the Peter Bonetti at Chelsea, of course, famously called the Cat, and Kevin Keelan as well. The two cats of football, brilliant, and both cracking goalkeepers.
Yeah, so, excellent. Kevin was a big character as well. Good lad, but very, very funny.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've had some good laughs with Kevin over the years. He's a brilliant player. And of course, he still lives in America, doesn't he? He still lives there.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. So comes back every now and again. In fact, you held Tampa Bay Rowdies in high regard, and during a shoot interview, and for those who don't understand what shoot is, it was a football magazine, going back in the 70s. Every schoolboy used to read it. I did, and I'm sure yourself as well, David, used to. But so in high regard, during that shoot interview, you called the Rowdies your second team and deemed the Rowdies Stadium as the best you've ever played in. This must have been an amazing experience, as we've just discussed. So, how did the Rowdies Stadium compare to the English stadiums you were used to playing on at the time?
It was a big, like a bowl. It was the football stadium where whatever they were called. I can't remember what they were called. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it was a football stadium, but the pitch was in fantastic condition. Grass pitch, but it was quite compact. In the surroundings were very close to the pitch.
Yes.
But by the same token, it was a big stadium as well, like a big concrete bowl, basically. But I really enjoyed playing because when it was half full, if you had 20 or 30,000 people in there, it was a great atmosphere. So I really enjoyed it. It was 4 months of, real enjoyment for me, an experience for my wife and kids at the time.
Oh, of course. They must have loved it too. They probably said to it, let's not go back to England. Stay here, Dad. Stay here, David.
We were hoping to go back, yeah. Didn't work out.
Yes, of course. But that's, in life. And of course, in 2014, Ricky Hill, what a great player he was. I do remember Ricky Hill from Manchester United, absolutely wonderful player, who was then the current Rowdies coach and former teammate, spoke of your footballing ability and skill and awareness on behalf of Luton Town, America. And I quote, again, another quote on behalf of me, "The only thing the tricky winger, you, David, had over today's generation, bear in mind this is 2014, was his crossing ability. I see so many of these so-called Premiership stars, England internationals like Zaha, Ashley Young, Walcott, who never pick anyone out with a cross. They just put the balls in the areas. Mossy used to put it on your head. Don't move, just put it in the net." Now, that is something from a great player like Ricky Hill, isn't it, David? Really?
That's fantastic. Yeah, he was a wonderful player, Ricky. And a great guy, a gentleman. But,
absolutely.
He was probably one of the best players I've ever played with. So lovely compliments from Ricky. That.
Yeah, and they're all true comments too, as well. I've done my research and looked it all up, and I thought that's just a wonderful story. I remember Ricky Hill actually when he fell out of the Football League as such, and his twilight days. I remember him playing for Chertsey Town in the Ryman League Division 1, I think it was. And the reason why I remember it is because those days Chertsey Town were playing Aldershot Town in the non-league football, Ryman League, and to go to watch Chertsey Town play Aldershot with Ricky Hill playing for Chertsey, it's just incredible. Kenny Sampson, he was there as well, amongst some other players. They had a cracking side, Chertsey Town. But yeah, I mean, accolade. What an accolade. That must make you feel very, very happy.
Absolutely. I didn't realise Ricky played any non-league, to be honest, but I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah,
he was a top-class player.
Oh, he was, without doubt. And I think it literally was the end of his career. He ended up at Chertsey Town. They had some money going into the club, so they could afford to bring players like Kenny Sansom and Ricky Hill in.
Right, yeah.
And that really was it, I think, at the end of the day. I think he only had about 2 seasons there, but yeah, good for non-league football, good for local supporters to see such a classy player. It's wonderful. The 1981-82 promotion season and the one that followed were definitely highlights of your career, David, from what I understand. With the game at Liverpool early in 1982-83, probably the best you appeared in, as Luton Town played Liverpool quite literally off the park and were unlucky to come away with only 1 point in a 3-3 draw. I mean, tell us more about that Liverpool match at Anfield, David.
Yeah, fantastic. Red hot day. Playing in front of the Kop, it was absolutely wonderful, but it made my day to be able to score in front of the Kop. And I also created Brian Steen's second goal.
Brilliant.
I didn't have a great game that day, to be honest. They obviously they were a great side in those days, Liverpool. They kept the ball. They were very, 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 very good in possession and patient. So I didn't see a lot of the ball, but actually when I look back and I've said I've scored one and I've made a goal, so perhaps it worked out. Perhaps I wasn't that bad, basically. But it was a good day to remember because I don't know if you're aware, but we used 3 goalkeepers that day.
No,
Jake Finley got injured. Did you know we used 3 goalkeepers in the game?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Against Liverpool. Jake Finley got injured, had to come off. For some reason, Kurt Stevens took his jersey and went in goal. I don't know why. But then when we went in at half time, David Pleat said, "Kirk, you're coming out," and Mal, who was the designated standing goalkeeper.
Yes.
Mal Donaghy went in goal and Kirk came back out. I think Raddy was the sub, so Raddy came on and we had a little change of positions and it didn't make any difference. We played really well in the second half again.
Yes.
And we suddenly found ourselves 3-2 up with maybe 10 minutes to go.
Oh.
And then I think Craig Johnston got the equalising goal. So 3 goalkeepers that day, each one conceded 1 goal.
Oh, that's a story.
Yeah,
yes. That's
strange. But we came out with a point and we came out with a lot of praise from, I know David said that their manager and which was Bob Paisley, wasn't it?
Yes, it was
their
Bob
manager
Paisley.
And staff were very complimentary about the way we played. So that was nice.
That's nice coming from Liverpool, isn't it? You know, they respected Luton Town and what you've done. That's a great comment to have fed back, especially from somebody so amazing like Bob Paisley. What a great manager and great history he's got at Liverpool.
Absolutely,
just incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned it already, but your goal at Anfield, was that scored in front of the Kop by any chance?
That was in front of the Kop, which was made me very, very happy. And they were there. It's the first time I've ever been applauded by away fans.
Really?
Scoring a goal. Yeah, seriously. I couldn't believe it.
That's incredible.
It was a good goal. It was a good finish because I lobbed it over Bruce Grobbelaar from outside the area. And yeah, got a round of applause, which has never been known from away fans, not in my time.
No, I don't think it's ever been known anywhere. It's not known now, is it?
It's certainly not now, no.
No, definitely not now. Oh, that's incredible. Well, there you go. It says everything about you as a football player, doesn't it, David? Really, when you're getting the away fans at Liverpool, Anfield applauding your goal, that says it all.
Well, it was a nice moment, put it that way.
Yes, indeed. And then you returned to Swindon Town in 1985 when Lou Macari, a great player again, brought you back to the club to add some experience to his young team. But sadly, injuries were already playing their part and you managed only 4 appearances before dropping out of the Football League. So your homecoming didn't work out too well, did it? And how bad were your injuries? What was the problem?
I'd finished the previous season with a long-standing, excuse me, Achilles tendon injury.
Oh, okay.
Which we'd managed quite well with our great physio at Luton, John Sheridan.
Yes.
Where I was resting and massage and treatment and then training, and we managed to get through the season basically. And that went on for a few months, and then my contract was coming to the end, and David kindly allowed me to leave on a free transfer. So I had 3 or 4 clubs I was talking to, but I think I did make a mistake because I went back to, they say never go back, don't they?
They do.
I went back to Swindon and I was never 100% fit. I was disappointed. I tried to get fit. I had an operation on my Achilles tendon, which took a few months to come back from that into some reasonable condition.
Yes.
No, it was a disappointing time for me. From a football point of view, personally, I think my family wanted to go back that way. Well, they did want to go back that way, and the kids went back into school and everything. So from that point of view, it was good. From the football, not so good, but I've still got a lot of feelings for Swindon Town, and
of course you have
a lot of good memories from there as well. So, but it just didn't work out. My body was telling me I should have packed in probably the year before, but
yes,
I didn't. You don't want to see it end.
No, exactly. There's so many players I speak to, and a few on the show as well, that, when I have conversations, they all say your body always lets you know when you should retire. And if you don't, it's going to be worse for you, isn't it?
That's very true, actually.
Yeah.
It does let you know when it's time.
Definitely.
Especially when the younger ones, you can't keep up with the younger ones who are coming through, and players maybe you would have got the better of in the past. You couldn't now. So, yeah, it tells you.
It certainly does. And then when you see the likes of like Tommy Smith at Liverpool, at the time, who you probably would have played in that match against him, wouldn't you? I guess at that time when you scored, he was taking cortisone injections every game, destroyed his body. I mean, he's effectively, he's a cripple. It's just dreadful. And it's happened to so many
players in those days that had to have injections just to get out on the field.
Absolutely,
it doesn't happen nowadays. Not that I know of. I wouldn't think it does.
Oh, I don't think the players would have it now, would they? Because it's
no, there's too much scrutiny and too much money involved nowadays to take those risks. So,
without
a lot of players I know, they always say, "Oh, in my latter years, I was injected and patched up and sent back out on the field."
It's dreadful. Yeah, it was. In fact, Paul Miller, our friend Paul Miller, Tottenham, he said to me on the show the other week that Glenn Hoddle, he used to have these cortisone injections. And he said he struggles now to walk around a golf course. He can't do it. Yeah. So to play around a golf, he can't do.
It's lots like that, I'm afraid.
Yes. So, it's good that you're not in that situation, David. You're still getting out.
No, I'm okay, actually. I feel fine now. I had a new hip last Christmas.
Right.
I had a hip replacement and it went really well. And I've been I've never been this pain-free for years, so
Brilliant.
it's fantastic.
So you get some new football boots for Christmas and start again in the new year.
I wouldn't go that far, to be honest, but
I am joking, of course, but
of course,
yeah, never thought. And I played in the match because I had terrible cruciate damage and all that kind of thing, both knees. I've had them all operated on, and I'm okay. I can run now. I can walk. And I played in a game in 2018, a charity football game with lots of Robert Flecking against me, and I had Peter Mendham in my team as well. And it was a great game. We had the best side. We won 12-5, I think it was. But Flecky was still good though. He could still put that ball around like he always has done. But that's my last game. Won't play again. There's no point in damaging your knees, is there, for and hobbling around for the rest of your life?
No, but it's hard to stop. I mean, I played until I was nearly 60 in charity games, and I used to love it. I used to really love it, but just got to a stage where I couldn't do it anymore. So
exactly,
sad time, really.
Yeah, especially when it's your life. What do you do afterwards? It's like, oh, hold on, I've been in football all my life. I'm not now out of it. What do I do? But you think of other things, don't you? A lot of golf, probably, and a lot of players to play, don't they? Of course, players used to buy a pub, didn't they, years ago? They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, they did. I was lucky enough. I went into coaching.
Yeah, that's my next question.
With Brian at Oxford United, so I was quite fortunate, and that started me. Yeah, that was sort of the next 20 odd years of my life. So
absolutely,
I really loved that.
So you had a brief spell out of football, and you decided to go into football coaching, the football coaching route you just mentioned. But initially, you opened a clothes shop as well in Swindon. But you were all we'll talk about that. But you were always itching to get back into football, because if you're a footballer, that's what it is, isn't it? And when the then Oxford United manager Mark Lawrenson asked you to become part of the part-time youth coach, you jumped at the chance. When your former teammate at Luton Town, Brian Horton, took over, as you just said, he asked you to go full-time, which you gladly accepted. So back into football scene again, David. So please tell us more about your coaching experiences.
Yeah, definitely. That time was, I did open a business with a shop.
Yes.
But I was still involved in football, believe it or not. I was working as a scout.
Yes.
For Tottenham Hotspur.
Marvellous.
And David Pleat went to Tottenham, didn't he?
He did. Not surprising, is it really?
No, and I was scout, so I didn't lose touch with football altogether, although I wasn't involved full time. I was part-time scouting, and then, like you say, I went to Oxford United as a part-time youth coach, taking the under 18s, under 16s. And then within a few months, I think Mark had left Oxford. Brian had taken over as manager, and he asked me to go in full-time and take the reserves and the youth team. So that was the start of my journey, really.
And an enjoyable one too, I'd imagine, because you held coaching jobs at the likes of Oxford United, Manchester City, Chester, before briefly managing Macclesfield Town. I mean, how did you settle into management as well? Was that difficult?
Do you know what? I really loved when I started at Oxford doing the youth team, and that I used to love those days, especially the match days.
Yes.
Played in the southeast counties, Oxford United, and we played the likes of Arsenal and Tottenham and Chelsea and Crystal Palace, and we did really, really well. We had some good players.
Yes.
We brought some good players who ended up playing in the first team. And then when I went with the first team with Brian, we were in the second division, which is now the Championship.
Indeed,
and we more than held our own. We were very competitive. But I loved those days. And then Brian got the opportunity to go to Man City. And he asked me to go with him. And I wanted to, but I also had a little inkling that maybe had I stayed, I would have got the manager's job at Oxford. But it didn't come to that. So I was told afterwards, actually, that I had a good chance of getting the job, but I didn't want to risk. I didn't want to have a good chance of getting the job. I wanted 100% to be getting the job.
Of course, yes.
If I was turning down going with Brian to Man City. So
absolutely.
That was 93, and we went there. Really enjoyed it. They were having a tough time at the time, off the field as well as on the field. But we managed to do okay. We kept them in the Premier League, and there was a takeover. Francis Lee and his group took over from Peter Swales, and things changed a little bit. I think the goals they were setting were not practical, and we ended up doing 2 years there before Brian got the sack, and I left with him. But it was very enjoyable, and it was working in the Premier League, and it was another step up the ladder as far as we were both concerned.
A double act.
Absolutely.
A bit like Clough and Taylor. So
yeah, we stayed together for a few years, to be honest. Yeah.
Brilliant. What about the Macclesfield Town job? You went to manage them for I think 2-year period. How did that go?
I was coaching after we left Huddersfield, where I went with Brian also. I ended up coaching with Gary Megson at Stockport County.
Oh, Stockport County. Wow.
I had a few years at Stockport County, and I was taking the reserves and the kids, and then I ended up as assistant manager there. And then when I left there, I think I was probably out of work for 6 months, maybe, I can't remember. And I applied for the Macclesfield job, and unfortunately I got it. They were bottom of the league, which was staring the Vauxhall Conference in the face. And I know we were 5 points adrift or 7 points adrift when I took over, and we managed to stay up. The chairman said to me, "Do you think you can keep us up?" And I said, "Well, not with that squad, no." And he allowed me to bring in some loan players from. I called a few favours in from managers I knew.
Of course.
Got some loan players in. Started on a run. I think we went on a 10-match unbeaten run, and we managed to stay up that season. So
good achievement.
It was a good achievement because we were the lowest gates in the league. We were the lowest budget in the league, and we also discovered a couple of very good young players that went on and moved on for better money, like Ricky Lambert. If you remember Ricky Lambert playing for Liverpool, playing for Southampton.
Yes, started his days at Macclesfield Town.
He started because he started at Blackpool actually.
Yes.
And then he got released by Blackpool. And when I went to Macclesfield, he was a non-contract player playing in the reserves, basically making up the numbers. And after my first week's training, the chairman said to me, "What have you made of the squad so far?" And I said, "Well, your best 2 players are non-contract and messing about in the reserves." And I told him it was Ricky Lambert and a boy called Danny Whitaker. And he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, they're both going to be playing this weekend in the first team." So that was the start. And Ricky did really well. He got a new contract. He scored goals galore for Macclesfield and went on to better things. I think they sold him for, in fact, we sold him back to Stockport for 250,000, I think, which I think kept the club going kept them at a receivership for a few weeks.
Yes.
Or a few months. So it was interesting. 2 years I had there, and I kept them in the league. But expectations become ridiculous, don't they? Because you stayed up. And they said to me, "We need to finish in the top 6 in the playoffs."
I can imagine what you said. Not with this squad.
Basically, no chance. I said, "No chance." And if that's the case, then I'm just waiting to be sacked, basically. So, but I enjoyed being the manager, making my own decisions for once,
Yes,
as much
absolutely.
as I loved working with Brian, and we used to discuss everything, Brian had the final say. So I had a couple of years of, all right, I'll make these decisions and I'll live or die by them. So yeah, enjoyed
it. That's good. That's a good story. That's a very good story. And then you also worked as a academy chief scout for Premiership side Liverpool, I understand, as well. Sounds like a great role. I mean, how did that work out? And any great stories to tell us about? Obviously, your goal we've talked about.
Absolutely loved working at Liverpool. I was working part-time for a guy called Malcolm Elias, who was head of youth development at Oxford United when me and Brian were there. And Malcolm had been to Southampton as head of recruitment for the academy. And then he'd been headhunted to go to Liverpool. And Malcolm, I was working for him part-time at Southampton, doing scouting and doing stuff in Europe. And he rang me and he said, how would you fancy coming in full-time at Liverpool? I took about 2 seconds to say yes. And I was there for nearly 14 years.
That's incredible, isn't it?
So absolutely loved it, working for a club like that, working at that level, working for the academy, seeing a lot of the young players come.
Yeah, some great players.
And develop. But I was working towards the, probably the latter 6 or 7 years of that, I was working in Europe more than in the UK. So happy days. I really liked it. Got to travel all over the world watching football.
Yes.
Making recommendations and starting young players hopefully on their careers. So yeah.
Is there any notable players you brought into Liverpool that you found?
Well, it's difficult to say because you the way I was working or the way we worked, it's not a one-man job. It's everybody. Somebody's got an opinion. Somebody else goes to check. Somebody else, if you like him, then they send somebody more senior, and eventually it goes around to the top table where they go, right, we make a decision. With the local recruitment, the local signing of players, it was different. The local scouts would basically sign players on, like schoolboy forms and then academy forms, etc. But with the higher up the level you go, like 14, 15, 16-year-olds, it was a joint venture where a lot of people got involved in. Somebody goes to see somebody, likes what they see, and then possibly report to me, who I would then go and see and then report to the boss. And that's how it is. But loads of we brought loads of young players in, and probably the biggest name I would suggest would probably be Raheem Sterling, who we signed from QPR. But everybody knew Raheem. He was 15, playing in QPR's academy, so everybody saw him. But our academy director at the time at Liverpool, Frank McParland, was a decision maker. He would say yes or no. He wouldn't mess around and and do this and we'll take our time. He decided he wanted to do it, so we did it. And as it worked out very well. And Raheem went on and moved for 50 million quid to Manchester City. So that's one that paid off. But there were lads that have had good careers and still having good careers in football that came through the academy. So yeah, it was a lovely, lovely time.
Absolutely.
Very so because the top clubs in that sort of at that level, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Man City, were all chasing the same players, the best young players, wherever in the world you saw them. All those clubs. I used to go scouting. I've been to Argentina, been to Paraguay, Mexico, all over Europe, every European country. And every country you go to, you'd see scouts from your rival clubs. So we were all chasing the same players.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can understand that. And to get someone like Raheem Sterling as well, as you said, a huge fee to Manchester City, who then sold him on across to Chelsea for another huge fee, and a great international football player as well, wasn't he?
Top player. Raheem's a top player, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. He was a very bright prospect. Even nobody could actually guarantee what he was going to turn out to be. So but our boss at the time, Frank McParland, said, we're going to do it. It's going to cost a lot of money for a 15-year-old, but we're going to do it. And it paid off.
That's brilliant. It's a good story. Absolutely fantastic story. 14 great years at Liverpool Football Club as a scout. I mean, that's a wonderful job, isn't it? And I'm going to step back a little bit now. And we had this chat the other day, and I've got to bring this up. In the 1970s, I'm not sure the actual date, of course, you did play in a testimonial match at Whaddon Road, the home of Cheltenham Town Football Club, in a Ted Croker 11 side against Cheltenham Town. The Ted Croker 11, which you played in, featured the following stars at the time, a huge lineup in the Ted Croker 11, which had Nobby Stiles, Terry Payne, Roger Hunt, Jeff Hurst, hat-trick World Cup winner, Derek Dugan, of course, a fantastic player at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and of course, Sir Bobby Charlton. I mean, what a team! And David, you did score a cracking goal too, which I think Bobby Charlton eventually praised you for. So please tell us a story around this game. It's quite a funny story, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many of those players, actually, I can't remember how many played on the night, but I can remember definitely Sir Bobby Charlton and Nobby Stiles played.
Yes.
And a couple of my teammates from Swindon, Jimmy Allen and Trevor Anderson, played. But I can't remember whether, I think Terry Payne may have played. I'm not sure some of the others. But all I can remember is Bobby was a lovely man. Don't get me wrong. He was.
Oh, yes.
Before the game and sitting there talking, he was lovely. And during the game, he didn't stop moaning and complaining. Everything was wrong. If you had a shot, you should have passed to him. If you did something, you should have given him the ball first. And then it went on and on and on. But then I did score even today, I can remember it. I just caught the ball sweetly on the volley.
Yes.
First time, and it went into the bottom corner, and it was like, well done. He never said a word. He just whispered to me, you should have taken a touch there and passed the ball, because had you not connected properly, that would have given them probably a goal kick, and we'd have lost possession. And I thought, he's actually serious about it.
He probably was, yes.
I think he was, yeah. And then because if you didn't give him the ball during the game, my goodness, he let off at everybody. And after the game, lovely guy again. We had a drink in the bar and had a chat with the players before we all departed. And he did say to me, shook hands and just said, by the way, cracking goal you scored. So we did have a smile about it, but that was my only time I really met Bobby to speak to. A legend in football, a legend for Man United, a legend for England, and across the world, basically.
Absolutely.
One of football's finest.
Absolutely. He goes down as a world legend, doesn't he? Amongst the other great players, without doubt. And on this note, we must offer our condolences to Bobby Charlton's family, friends, and, of course, Manchester United Football Club. Bobby, of course, sadly passed away in the early hours of the 21st of October, 2023. Bobby was 86. His death leaves Jeff Hurst as the last surviving English player now of the 1966 World Cup final. Very sad news indeed, David, isn't it? Well, wasn't it last weekend?
Absolutely, yeah. I know Bobby had been ill for a couple of years, hadn't he? He'd been suffering, I think. So
he had. Yeah, I think he had dementia, didn't he? It was a dreadful thing.
Yes, I think so. And then it's obviously tragic. He had a great life. He had a great career. I think like you say, a legend, not just as a footballer, I think as a person as well.
Yes.
Well respected everywhere. So, yeah, very sad day. And it's sad that there's only one of that 66 squad still with us today. I think, certainly the starting 11.
Starting 11, yeah.
There's only Jeff Hurst, isn't there?
Well, I'll tell you, I can remember not that long ago, probably about 2014, well, I suppose almost 10 years ago, I did a charity auction on behalf of East Anglian Children's Hospices, who Kate Middleton is a patron of. And I got, for this charity auction, I got an England shirt, signed shirt, for the 1966 team, and it had 10 signatures, 10 of the first 11 players on that shirt. The only missing player was Sir Bobby Moore, because he'd obviously passed previously. But 10, and there's only one left. I mean, I auctioned that off for charity, which was great. I sometimes wonder whether I should have kept it myself, actually, now. But no, it's for charity. So I had to raise money, and that's what it's about. But yeah.
Well, that's 2014, so 9 years ago.
9 years ago.
There was only Bobby, because he went quite young, didn't he, Bobby?
Yeah, Bobby Moore.
Bobby Moore.
He was the only player that hadn't signed the 66 shirt, because he died a lot earlier before the signatures on the shirt. But dreadful. But it just goes to show you, in that time, another 9 players have passed. Sad.
Yeah.
And of course, Francis Lee recently as well. Let's not forget Franny Lee.
Francis, yeah.
So, such a shame, really is. So what other highlights do you remember in your career, David?
Obviously, getting signed as a professional, first of all.
Yes.
because I'd come from a small town in Witney Town. And believe it or not, when I was 14, I actually played in their first team,
Yes.
and I was playing quite regularly at 15. And we had a gentleman called Ron Atkinson, who played for Oxford United, who used to come and train us on a Monday and a Tuesday. On a Tuesday and a Thursday night.
Yes.
So that's a highlight, because it sort of gave me a little glimpse into what professionalism might be, because the training obviously stepped up with Ron as to what I might expect if I actually made it as a professional.
Yes, indeed.
So signing professional, and then actually meeting and playing with my heroes at Swindon Town, who had won the League Cup in '69, was still very fresh in my mind. Wonderful memory. Scoring my very first league goal. First of all, making my full debut against Watford, and then scoring my first league goal, which was at Hillsborough, actually, against Sheffield Wednesday. That was a massive highlight, because I'd considered myself to be a goal-scoring winger, and I wanted to prove it. So every goal I scored, I do cherish. And then a highlight, obviously, moving to Luton Town, which gave me 7 years of enjoyment, playing wonderful football for a great manager. David Pleat was a wonderful manager.
Yes, he was.
Encouraged you. I'd been told for several years when I was younger the things I couldn't do, the things I wouldn't do, things I didn't want to do. And David just said, the reason I've signed you is for what you can do.
Mm. Brilliant man.
And, great man, wonderful coach, improved my game about another 50%, I would say.
Incredible.
And my understanding of the game, and playing with great players as well. So great memories. And then the promotion, the game against Shrewsbury and the game against QPR when we clinched the championship. Because I think it would have gone a little bit flat had we just got promotion and not won the championship.
Yes, indeed.
We'd got promotion against Shrewsbury, which was a great night, but we needed to beat QPR to win the title and get a medal and be able to parade the trophy. So that was a major highlight. But all highlights for me, Russell, from going
sounds like
into management to going coaching to go into Liverpool. All highlights that I've been involved in football now for over 50 years in professional football. So I've been very, very lucky.
Yes, you have.
From the age of 17. So got great memories and met some wonderful people and got friends. We still meet up today with the Luton squad from David Pleat's days. We still have a reunion about twice a year. So
it's nice, isn't it?
Still talk the same rubbish, that we tell the same stories, tell the same jokes. We've all got better players as the years have gone on.
Oh, of course, yeah.
As you can imagine, we never made a mistake, any of us.
No, I can imagine. Highlight the real truth, embellish the truth slightly, and
absolutely.
Why not? Why not, indeed? And so
why
you
let
should
the truth get in the way?
Exactly, absolutely right. You've had a fabulous career, you really have, and to end the show, I thought it fitted to quote Timothy Collins, who holds you in very high regard, David. Timothy Collins summed you up perfectly in the Luton Town story when he said, "Nothing so delighted a Kenilworth Road crowd as the sight of David Moss in full flight and on top of his form, scoring with one of his deadly chipped shots, usually his right foot, which left opposing goalkeepers stranded. The fact the goal-scoring winger was never selected for England national team remains a mystery to this day, but as Luton Town fans will remember, a true legend. Thank you for the memories, David Moss." And that's a lovely story, isn't it, from Timothy Collins?
That's fantastic. Yeah, fantastic.
Some accolade, it really is, and a fitting tribute, I would say, to be honest.
Well, that's lovely.
Fantastic. And as always, it's probably a good end to the show. As always, the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. We could talk forever, David, about your life in football, the halcyon days, of course. And I know there are many, many more stories from the dressing room when football was indeed played at a different style and pace. So thank you, David, for coming onto the show and talking about your professional life on the footballing stage as one of Luton Town's legends. It's been a huge pleasure as always. And as always, the pleasure is all mine. And of course, the show's audience when this podcast is released onto the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show. So thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you David Moss. Big round of applause. Brilliant story. Great to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Russell.
Superb. Please stay on if you can. I'm going to wrap up the show, so please stay on and have a quick chat. The next episode on the World of Lord Russell podcast talk show is a woman's touch at the crucible. Some might say the First Lady of Snooker, where my special guest will be Michaela Tabb, the former professional snooker referee who became the First Lady to referee a World Snooker Championship final in 2009, officiating as John Higgins defeated Sean Murphy 11-9 to capture his third world title. Michaela also refereed the 2012 World Snooker Championship final, in which Ronnie O'Sullivan defeated Ali Carter in 18-11 to win his fourth world title. So as of 2023, Michaela remains the only professional female professional snooker player, referee, I should say, to have officiated at a World Championship final. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you all on the inside. So until then, it's au revoir from him and au revoir from me.